Oh, what a day it is. Right here in Ocala, Florida. I'm Jonathan Morris Schwartz, and thank you very much for joining me for today's program, the Jonathan Morris Schwartz My Manic Brain, Sex, Politics, and Everlasting Life. Today's show I'm excited about. We're going to explore whether we're protein puppets or cosmic creatures. We're going to talk about consciousness. There are many wonderful YouTube videos, books, scientists who explore where our consciousness comes from. Are we purely biological? Is that inner voice in our head, our metacognition, our meta brain, that little voice that tells us where we're going to eat, when we're going to eat, who we're going to talk to, when we wake up, when to quit our job, who to love, who to hate, that little internal compass that we call consciousness can only exist within us biologically, or perhaps exist cosmically, externally. And what's interesting is it can't be both. I mean, we can say categorically that we are either biological beings, blood cells, bones, protein, water. I mean, our consciousness is either a result of the neurons firing in our own head, our brain learning to get to know itself, that internal voice, or we have a cosmic consciousness, that there is something of us that exists outside of us. It can't be both. We either have some form of everlasting life or we don't. That's black and white, that's categorical, and every single one of us will find out someday. So today's show is going to explore and go into some interesting, provocative, social commentary, ideas for how to live your life biologically, in case this is all there is, and cosmically, in case this is not all it is, and part of us, our spirit, our soul, that little internal voice, in some way, shape, or form exists even after our blood, sweat, and tears is no longer here. We're going to break it up into two pieces. The first three essays and analysis and stories and discussion will lean toward the notion that this is it. We are meat puppets. We are protein heads, literally meat heads, and that we're born, we live, we die, we're buried, and when we die, whatever consciousness exists, whatever we call our internal soul and spirit, dies with us. The end. And then the second half of the show will explore the possibility that we do indeed have everlasting life and what that means, and explore the consequences of such. So we dive right in biologically with strategy happiness. So what the heck is someone to do? Especially a young person. They see rampant infidelity, swiping madness, emerging contemporary lifestyles like thruples, love amongst three people, variations of swinging, volitionally open relationships, experimentation with all the letters of the LGBTQ, intense self-analysis of where they belong in a gender continuum, and they wonder what their future holds. Where do those go who still believe in forever love? Is any of it worth it? Are they going to simply fritter away their 20s, 30s, and 40s with a series of well-intended but futile, hollow, ultimately meaningless flings? The answer is maybe. In all seriousness, the pursuit of love is a uniquely human endeavor, and love comes in all forms, with all people, of all genders. There is no judgment about who can love whom. Love is love. There is no evidence any other mammal enjoys the cerebral neural dance of desire, lust, fantasy, reality, and risk taking that we do. Man to woman, woman to woman. It's love. But here are several strategies you can employ to increase chances of having your cake, eating it, and retaining a sincerely happy life. Number one, sex is sex. Sex is biological. No matter how scary or potentially painful the thought of someone who's giving you their heart and soul and private parts cheating on you sexually can be, the only thing more stressful is worrying about it to the point of pathological anxiety disorder. Assume at some point your soulmate is going to spread their legs or thrust their midsection with someone other than you. Perhaps it'll never happen, but you'll never really know for certain. So try to convince yourself it may happen. If or when it does happen, what you do with that betrayal is your personal choice. If you want to stay and work things out, fine. If you cannot get over it and need to break up or divorce, that's fine too. If you vacillate endlessly between staying and going, it's your life. But be clear-eyed, know thyself, listen to your friends and family, and create the life you both wish, Joseph Campbell, to live. But do not underestimate creating the life you need to live. Number two, getting to know yourself. No one who hates themselves can be happy. Of course, we all hate aspects of ourselves, but you must either discover or create aspects of yourself you genuinely enjoy. That inner voice must get along with the person you see in the mirror. This is about as Oprah as I'm going to get, but it's 100% fact that you cannot be happy without loving yourself and enjoying individual pursuits. We came in this glorious pit of tears alone, and we will go out alone. Do not be afraid to hold your own hand. Number three, never give up on humanity. There are over 7 billion people standing on this floating asteroid. There's bound to be a few billion for whom you are compatible. Each day of your life has a definable beginning, middle, and end. Each day is a mini lifetime. Of course, an intoxicating romantic fling can rock your world, but do not underestimate the 2 or 6 or 100 deep, meaningful, trusting, and loving friendships in your life. As you grow older, you might find the most joy in those who seem to genuinely love you, those who would visit you in the hospital or nursing home, those who think of you and miss you when you are gone. Never give up on humanity. Never. Number 4, lower your expectations. Materialism can only take you so far. Billionaires suffer from at least as much, if not more, mental health issues and depression, despite having more Lamborghinis, mansions, yachts, and private islands than you would think anyone would need to be happy. Be smart, study, work hard, do everything you can to make enough money to have a comfortable life. Be generous, but know you can be genuinely, truly satisfied and complete without endless baubles, bangles, and beads. For my religion friends, what would Jesus do with a bling-covered Rolex and a Gulfstream G650 private jet? Moving right along with where what we call our consciousness resides, whether it's in our biology encased in such and dies when we die, or whether it exists outside of us in some manner, and we are effectively receivers in our current form, and what that means to how we live our life and what we appreciate. And for those of you that are enjoying the show, please like and subscribe. And for those of you who like to drive and listen, Jonathan Morris Schwartz's My Manic Brain is available on all audio podcasts worldwide. Encased in our own ungratefulness. Ungratefulness defined: not feeling or exhibiting gratitude, thanks, or appreciation. Not agreeable or pleasant. Repellent. Perspective defined: a particular attitude toward or way of regarding something, a point of view. We are in many ways trapped in our own minds and bodies. Even the most empathetic of humans, say Mother Teresa, cannot truly feel someone else's pain. When a mother tells her child, "I wish I could take your pain," no matter how much they sincerely would transfer that sickness or fear or trauma to themselves, they cannot. Oftentimes, our peace of mind, our tranquility, our overall contentment is tied to our physical and mental disposition, our perspective and level of gratefulness. Millions of people have very few health problems until they are in their 80s or 90s. Some people never have health problems, live to be 100, and die peacefully in their sleep. Others are sick all the time with one ailment after the next. Most people statistically avoid major traumas, accidents, and injuries. Others sustain broken bones, lost limbs, severe burns, and are victims of violent crime. Yet nobody expects to get sick or injured. There is no way to prepare for a heart attack or stroke or car accident or crime. And when something bad unexpectedly occurs, we are typically angry, depressed, and deeply saddened, which makes sense, even as we navigate through the stages of denial, anger, bargaining, and eventually some kind of acceptance. There's always that little voice in our head asking, why me? Why can't I be that 100-year-old who dodges every bullet and enjoys every day in peace and comfort and joy? Some scholars and religious leaders have postulated that we bring disease upon ourselves, that when we experience an interruption in our quote-unquote ease, it's our own fault, that if we maintain physical, mental, and spiritual balance, we would see that bus coming or keep that cancer at bay or avoid that double pneumonia. And while it's true, those who smoke, do drugs, and live recklessly are at higher risk of getting sick and dying, the graveyards are full of children and young adults who lived clean, angelic, righteous lives and died young regardless. Life is brutally and irreparably unfair. Stress and anxiety are invading so many lives and eating us away. The pressure of the 1950s, obey your parents, study hard, go to church, adhere to gender roles, be straight and hide it if you're gay, get married, have children, live a simple all-American life in a modest but comfortable home, watch baseball, eat hot dogs and apple pie, pray, love thy neighbor, and love Elvis. Sure, there was pressure to conform and perform and be successful, but everyone knew their roles in society, and if they adhered to them, they had a decent shot at a wonderful life. There was no cancel culture or social media bullies or being fired for saying something politically incorrect. Everyone knew their place, and in a consciously metacognitive manner were able to poke fun of and accept what we now see as outrageous injustices. Our current generational divides are so stark and so divergent. A 12-year-old in 2021 has about as much in common with a 50-year-old as a bird does with a fish. Those now quaint, outdated, conservative, cemented roles of past generations, while meaningful in many ways to many people, have been replaced with a permissiveness that is refreshing and exciting for some and infuriating and unacceptable for others. A child born today is exposed to dozens of potential lifestyles, sexualities, and gender options, oftentimes at the most transformative, volatile, and unsteady times in their lives, prepubescence and puberty. A young person entering the workplace today does not have the strong unions, corporate pensions, and job protections of prior generations. A child today is likely to end up with $100,000 in college debt for a degree that essentially leads nowhere for many of them. A child today is entering an inflammatory economy where in most metropolitan areas they cannot afford to leave their parents' home and build a life and family of their own. So is it no wonder stress and anxiety pervade? We're all to some degree or another profoundly lost. We want to please those we love, but at what cost? At what point does kindness become weakness? How much are we responsible for our dis-ease? Who knows? But here's a few facts. Number one, no matter how bad you have it, there is always someone who has it worse and is still smiling and grateful to be alive. Number two, we are often our own worst enemy, aren't we? Success is subjective. Money, there's always someone richer. Sex, there's always someone having it more or less. Love, you reap what you sow. Health, do your best to live as healthy a life as you possibly can. Do not beat yourself up for past transgressions. Then keep your fingers crossed. If you get sick, guilt is a useless burden. Number three, nobody lives forever. There are no guarantees. Live and survive one moment at a time. Try to make each day a lifetime. Number four, love yourself the most. You are ultimately all you got. That said, when you are experiencing full-blown heart racing, short of breath anxiety, once you have called your doctor or 911 if it's necessary, here's a technique you can employ as you lay in bed unable to fall asleep. Number 1, take a few deep breaths, ideally in through your nose and out through your mouth. Visualize the air going as deeply into your lungs as is comfortable. If your nose is stuffed, mouth breathing is fine. Number 2, as you exhale, say to yourself out loud in your head, I am grateful for, fill in the blank, and end the phrase by saying the name of an actual person. For example, I am grateful for my mother. I am grateful for my sister. I am grateful for my colleague. I am grateful for my best friend. Number 3, continue deep breathing and uttering the starter phrase, I am grateful, and plugging in literally everyone, go alphabetical if you wish, who you appreciate in your life. If you run out of people, plug in your favorite foods or fantasy vacation or physical or mental ability you are grateful for having. You see, you're probably not going to die in that moment, but if you think you are, call 911 as a disclaimer. But if for some freaky 1 in a billion chance you do, what better way to go than professing everything about your life that makes it worth living and displaying both your humanity through graceful gratefulness and perspective? Well, those are a few strategies for happiness, for being grateful, in case we are just hunks of walking protein, just blood, guts, and water, and our consciousness dies when we die. We're born, we live, we're buried, and hopefully we made the best of it. If that's true, we just explored the possibilities. But now let's enter the realm of cosmic consciousness. Let's now open our eyes to the possibility that whatever it is we call consciousness, that little voice, our personality, what we feel, what we see, what we smell, what we touch, what we experience, is felt within our biological selves, but exists outside of us, that exists in the universe in some fashion, and that we receive it through our biology, but that it does indeed, and we do indeed, last forever. This is from My Manic Brain. It is my Substack newsletter. It is free on Substack. Please enjoy, subscribe. Hearts, spleens, and everlasting life is how we jump into this section of everlasting life. Would you rather have a life characterized by euphoric, mind-blowing highs and obsessive-compulsive lows, or a calm, permanent steadiness? What is your happiness conditioned upon? Your health, your spouse, your children, your job, your secret lover, food, drugs, alcohol, sex, your ability to create something meaningful like a painting or a poem or a song? Is there something you cannot live without? Is depression a state of mind, or is your mind in a state of depression? Do most of us simply psych ourselves up or down by manipulating that internal voice in our head? Don't worry, everything is fine. It could just be indigestion, or you might be dying. Either way, you'll be strong, be courageous. Why does our neighbor's lawn always look greener? Why, no matter how much success, money, love, sex, and material wealth we achieve, we don't ever seem satisfied and satiated? Why do we always want more? Why do we have to slowly age, develop chronic illnesses, end up debilitated in mental and physical pain before we die? Why can't we just live our biological lifespan in perfect health and then simply not wake up again? Perhaps because we are not biological at all. Suspending your disbelief for a moment, does it make any sense for our consciousness to be so miraculously elegant, intelligent, creative, technologically oriented, and seemingly separate from any of our biological systems? Our hearts and lungs, even our brains, are magnificent clusters of blood cells and muscle, and can all, to some extent or another, be repaired or replaced without affecting our consciousness. But once we lose our ability to hear, manipulate, organize, and express ourselves, our consciousness seems to go away. Sometimes slowly through diseases such as dementia or traumatic brain injury, other times quickly through sudden death. We assume our thoughts, our internal language, that clearly intelligible inner voice lives within us. But there's no empirical evidence our consciousness exists anywhere specifically within our biological bodies. When we're being unreasonable or obsessing over something, we're often told it's all in your mind. When we lose a lover or girlfriend or boyfriend or spouse, we claim they broke our heart. Why not our liver or kidney or lungs? It's always she made me lose my mind, or he crushed my heart. Why not he broke my liver, or she stole my gallbladder, or because he cheated on me, my spleen will never be the same. Many argue that because those with biological diseases often become disoriented, losing their cognitive linguistic skills, particularly memory and expressive language, it means our consciousness resides within our bodies and disappears when we die. But what if our consciousness resides outside of our bodies, and like a radio is only received when we're in a biologically healthy state? When the wire, circuitry, and knobs of an old radio eventually degrade and stop working, we know the music is still playing elsewhere. We just don't hear it until we buy a new radio. When we eventually get sick and degraded, who's to say, like a radio, our consciousness is playing just fine, but our biologically impaired bodies just can't receive it anymore? What if our consciousness lives forever? Sure, this could be our one and only life, and when we die, that little voice in our head that guides us and creates love songs and encourages us to take chances and say just the right thing to save someone's soul, and reasons and deducts and rethinks and forgives and reinvents and sacrifices and convinces us to never give up, might die right along with our bodies. But I don't believe it. I believe part of us carries on. I believe we are in a miraculous moment where our consciousness is expressing itself in these unbelievably vulnerable bags of bones we call bodies. Look around the evolutionary animal world. Vulnerable creatures like turtles, armadillos, and crustaceans wouldn't survive without their shells. Yet we humans are arguably the most sensitive, squishy, exposed mammals on Earth. Imagine how many people would survive car accidents and bullet wounds if we had developed an exterior hard shell protecting our internal organs. If our bodies were just biological radios, we will never die. We just coexist in the cosmos as part of an infinitely expanding universe. No emotional ups or downs. Drugs, sex, food, loyalty, betrayal, and jealousy will be as significant as a single grain of sand. Happiness will be permanent, an everlasting gift from whomever created us. And that little voice in your head, the one that doesn't care if you're poor or fat, or drink or smoke or complain or gambled away your nest egg, or are short-tempered, or have a big nose or ears, or are tall or short or smelly, or failed algebra twice, or couldn't sexually please your girlfriend, or who forgot to feed the goldfish, or who never remembered anyone's birthday, that powerful voice forgives it all, because forever is a very long time, and your life on earth will eventually simply fade away, but you won't. What if life is a dream, and your dreams are your life? Ice cream cigars, permanent slip-on skates, huge outdoor umbrellas, and gatherings where you connect feelings of power and invincibility and immoral strength, flying, stumbling effortlessly into opulence, losing teeth, having wild, spine-tingling, otherworldly sex. We do not physically exist in our dreams, yet does anyone contend they are not more powerful sometimes than our waking lives are? Sometimes in our dreams, our fantasies come true. Impossible events and wishes and fantastical, inexplicable feelings and emotions waft and flit and whisk us through a euphoric, bulletproof existence. While awake, we fear unpredictability. We want safety and control. Our decisions are rooted in seeking to maximize our physical and emotional pleasure while limiting pain and suffering. Our dreams are literally defined by their unpredictability. In our dreams, we may be eating a delicious pizza one second, grow wings and flying, soaring over torturous ocean waves the next, and end up making love to that woman that you've been attracted to for years but would never give you the time of day in your bag of meat biological state. In our dreams, we do not have a drop of volitional control or the slightest hint as to what is coming next. And that does not scare us one bit. Why? Because we know somewhere in the recesses of our mind and consciousness that when we dream, we are safe. Nothing can happen to us. We are eternal. Even a nightmare doesn't do any lasting harm to our soul. Dreams do not discriminate based on race, gender, sexuality, or financial status. All 7 billion of us, regardless of physical state or intellectual acuity, have access to psychedelic, untamed, breathtaking world of wonder for which unconsciousness is the only price we pay to gain entry. Whether a man is worth $1 billion or is entirely broke, when they close their eyes and surrender their awareness of being material, they enter that unpredictable universe. Their money, or lack thereof, has no consequence at all. It's a great equalizer. Is it possible our dreams are a glimpse into our eternity? A cosmic playground we will eventually dwell in forever? Are we only awake when we leave our bodies at night and experience glimpses of unimaginable joy, euphoria, and peace? Do dreams offer a peek at an arc of justice that exists just not while our eyes are open? Do all dreams eventually come true? The most innocent view of heaven often comes from the mouths of young children. They often simply magnify earthly pleasures like ice cream sundaes, swimming pools, video games, playgrounds, amusement parks, and summer vacation, and claim eternal immersion. Essentially a day which begins with a buffet of sweets, followed by a dip in the perfectly heated pool by playing video games, then endless roller coasters with no lines, completed by dreams of lollipops and rainbows, and unicorns on the fluffiest feather bed in the cosmos. If you ask them if there is such a thing as disease or pain and sadness in heaven, most 5-year-olds will glance at you askew and tell you that in heaven you are happy all the time because it is all fun, forever. You see, prepubescents have no sense of carnal pleasure of the flesh. Their joy is eating gooey, cheesy, sugary foods, running, laughing, swimming, smiling, and sleeping. That's all they need. Interestingly, even the most sexually active adult does not believe they take it with them after they die. Their view of heaven, while more nebulous, is essentially the same as a 5-year-old. That is, endless, eternal peace of mind, comfort, joy, and utter, inexplicable freedom of mind, body, and spirit. Of course, we all know when we die, there is no heaven. We simply cease to exist. We are buried, decay, and disappear. Or do we carry on in some form of cosmic consciousness we simply do not currently understand? Is it possible the random suffering and death here on earth is a portal into a better existence? Is the child hit by a bus, the girl who slips off a cliff, the teenager who thought it was cool to play with his father's gun collection, or the firefighter who sacrifices himself to save another just unlucky? Is tragedy truly random? Or is there a method to the cruel madness? We're all going to die, but most people live into old age and die in bed, oftentimes with palliative care to ease them out peacefully. A small percentage die horrific, painful, completely unimaginable deaths. Some claim it is just nature. For every ant we step on, or spider we squish, or mouse we decapitate, millions of other creatures live out their natural lives perfectly content. While the actual act of sex is delicious, the touching, the effect, most learn quite young, it is the chase that thrills the most. Reality rarely lives up to fantasy. The potential, the cerebral dance is the prize. The experience can be like a dream, but will never, ever be the dream. Our imagination is both a blessing and a curse, for no matter how fortunate we are, there's always someone prettier, richer, more enticing, tighter, sexier, better. It is our ability to conjure up the perfect experience and then proceed to achieve it that motivates us, that gives us that unearthly push, that continually offers mystery and daring and hope. We are already superhuman. We are already bigger than life. Consider the following mind blower. We are already dead. Not all of us, of course. We've all had close calls, high fevers, pneumonia, blackouts, excruciating, unbearable pain. We assume we survived those close calls, but if we had died and continued quote unquote living in a parallel existence of which we do not currently understand, how would we know the difference? We are either entirely physical creatures or we are not. If we exist in some manner outside our biology, it does not require an extreme mind bend to envision the possibility that we never stop existing. Our bodies die, and everyone around us knows when our heart and brain is dead, except us. There's no delineation between the moment our blood stops pumping and we seem to lose consciousness. We sleep and dream a third of our life away when alive. What if life is a dream and our dreams become our lives? What if we never die? What if heaven is right here, wherever here is? What if we are eternal and just don't know it yet? What is all this materialistic nonsense? Expensive cars, mansions, yachts, spaceships. What if they don't actually matter? What if at some point in our existence we will be all rich beyond our wildest dreams? What if the material is an illusion and the spiritual is our true selves? What if nothing at all matters since we already are eternal? What if the dirty secret is, in the long run, only kindness matters? What if our bodies are the equivalent of a sick joke? What if we are in heaven right now and simply do not know it? And to sum up our potential for eternal everlasting life, as part of my book, My Manic Brain, Sex, Politics, and Everlasting Life, we are upright, walking hunks of protein and shouldn't be able to experience true love. In much of Europe, particularly with those who speak the Romance languages, the word love is reserved largely for deep, passionate, soul-moving feelings and emotions. Americans stretch the word to include everything from absolutely loving French fries and pizza to a perfectly cooked steak. It's not uncommon for a man to tell his wife he loves her in one breath and profess his love in equally emotional terms about his favorite sports team or athlete. Americans love to love everything. While some people might think they prefer eating sushi and drinking sake more than sharing a sunset with someone, there is no greater power than a human connection with another person. While in modern times, swinging, threesomes, and group sex is common, there is no great literature entitled Romeo and Juliet and Tom. Why do some people light up our spirit and soul every single time they text or call or think of us? What defines that mysterious connection? Why do some people thrill and excite us every day of our lives nonstop, others off and on over the years, and some for a brief time, then never again? With some, that special, undefinably joyous connection initially includes a physical attraction, sometimes consummated. With some, the physical attraction fades, but the spiritual, emotional love remains. And with others, every single bit of the love felt is genuine and not an ounce of physical desire. Why does the love for our best friends and oftentimes family outlast our romantic love? If sex ruins it, how can we explain couples who become best friends long after they have lost that quote-unquote loving feeling? Sometimes life-affirming connection survives, but not always. Our brains and personalities and behavior changes, sometimes for reasons unknown, other times from neurological, viral, or psychological debility or senility. At any age, but particularly as we grow older, we have those moments when longtime friends, family, colleagues, lovers, and spouses no longer connect with us in the same way. We become different. Some in nuanced or subtle ways, perhaps an unpredictable change in their religious or philosophical or political thoughts or beliefs. Others change in a more abrupt, categorical manner, with wholesale differences in personality, orientation, and daily function. Perhaps a kind, reserved, and shy person becomes loud and boisterous. The friend who was a math genius cannot calculate the tip on a restaurant receipt. The conservative, monogamous, straight-laced colleague starts sleeping with the boss, then the boss's boss, then anyone. Some get sick with diseases affecting their ability to communicate or think. Some get dementia and lose themselves. Some get mental illness and drown in despair. They are the same person, but not. They have the same body parts, but are missing. Where do they go? And where do we go? What are the limits of personal sacrifice to those whose body remains but mind does not? What do we owe those who were once the light of our existence but have become mentally, physically, or spiritually abusive, sometimes through no fault of their own? Perhaps they become a victim of their biology. In short, they get sick and lose themselves. For those professing death till you part, does that mean I'll sacrifice my own life and happiness to care for another? True love can only be defined as pure kindness and joy and caring and sharing dreams of the past, present, and future. Somebody who absolutely loves you would not expect you to sacrifice your body, mind, and spirit for them, should their eternal selves begin to leave their bodies before their bodies leave this earth. Nobody who loves you would expect you to entirely sacrifice yourself for them. Love does not mean categorically letting someone go. It means sacrificing, caring for, and remaining devoted to that person, to that love, to the extent that you can, while still retaining your own peace, joy, comfort, and happiness. Life on earth is patently unfair. Biology is transient, but there is absolutely no doubt that every inexplicable, undefinable, unimaginably comforting connection we experience with another human being is a glimpse into our mortality. People ask how our consciousness can live on forever when our mental and cognitive capacities change so much over time. Which one of us becomes immortal, our sharp, youthful self or the drooling end-of-life mess we sometimes become? Well, you're missing it. Our consciousness is not that voice in our head narrating our lives and deciding whether we have seconds at Thanksgiving or smoke or drink or take risks alone. We are not defined by any moment or event or circumstance or illness. Our eternity has nothing to do with the status of our immediate short-term or long-term memory skills. We are already eternal. We already exist in another realm right now. Every time we share a laugh, every time we feel someone else's joy and it flows through us, every time we lift someone up, every time we are forgiven, every time we feel better for no reason other than being in someone else's presence, every time we look so deeply into someone's eyes, their bodies melt away. Love, kindness, and that unimaginably comforting connection we loosely call love has nothing to do with our brains or eyes or arms or legs. It can only be experienced outside of our meat puppet selves. We envision ourselves as a version of our humanity. Eternal cosmic consciousness does not talk. It does not think. It does not speak one language or the other. It is the tingle in our spines when we kiss. It is the heart-fluttering passion we only feel in our dreams. It is the sensation we experience reading a great book or smelling a vibrant flower or when a puppy licks our face. On earth, we can only feel our own experiences. We can be empathetic, but do not bleed when someone else is cut. In eternity, we experience our own personal highs and moments of ecstasy, but miraculously, we also experience and become part of the highest highs and deepest joys of everything and everyone that has ever lived, is currently living, or will ever live. We are a microscopic part of the universe that, once connected, becomes plugged into unimaginable peace and euphoria. We feel every kiss everyone has ever made, ever. We experience the joy of every child's giggle. We exist as part of forever. Everyone we ever loved, even for a moment, is instantly and simultaneously a part of us forever. Many describe the feeling of sexual intercourse as one of humans' greatest pleasures. Imagine experiencing, feeling the collective orgasm of trillions eternally. Imagine not ever having another worry in the world. Even someone who meditates for days and largely lives within their own mind can only effectively communicate with others verbally or graphically by one person speaking or writing to another and getting a response. In the eternal universe, there are no words. We do not hear anything. We do not see anything. We do not taste anything. We simply are. We simply exist. We simply experience. We simply love. Thank you for joining me for this episode comparing biology and cosmic everlasting life. May we all enjoy everlasting joy. May we all live forever. May we all love. May we all exist. And may we all enjoy today because, oh, what a day it is. Good night, everybody.